Electrical overload.
I can fix that.
Coolant's leaking.
Try transferring auxiliary power to secondary tank.
What'd you do?
I bypassed the compressor.
Harrison Ford is back as the swashbuckling smuggler, and this time the Force is female, as he's joined by a young girl named Rey to save the Republic from an empire we all thought was dead. Star Wars: The Force Awakens, the 7th installment of the iconic franchise started by George Lucas, now owned by Disney, starring Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, and Oscar Isaac. Hello again, I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
Will you please take off that stupid mask?
I like this mask. Jim Henson gave me this mask and I'm not taking it off.
Jim Henson did not give you that mask. I was there when you bought it.
This mask belonged to Jim Henson.
If you don't take off the mask, I'm going to say some things and cut you down to size.
Size matters not. Look at me. Judge me by my size, do you?
I do it all the time.
And where you should not. For my ally is the Force.
Your ally is a cheeseburger, 2 milkshakes, and a fun-sized bag of M&Ms before 10 a.m.
Careful, Gene. I might use the Force to pluck out one of your last remaining hair follicles.
The Force isn't real, and if hair tasted like chocolate, you'd probably eat it.
It's completely real and has a very strong influence on the weak-minded.
The Jedi mind trick isn't real either. Now take off that damn mask.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
These aren't the droids I'm looking for.
You don't mind me wearing this mask.
I don't mind you wearing this mask.
When this taping is over, you're going home and putting on your wife's underwear.
When this taping is over, I'm going home and putting on my wife's underwear.
Move along.
The Force Awakens is the first of 3 movies in a sequel trilogy that became inevitable as soon as Disney made plans to drive traffic to their soul-crushing theme parks. Daisy Ridley plays a Force-sensitive orphan who, stop me if this sounds familiar, is living a pedestrian life on a desert planet before she encounters a droid with information, which sparks an adventure that leads them to Han Solo, who brings them to the rebels trying to defeat another empire before it can retake the galaxy with a bigger Death Star. And Roger, if I hadn't seen it with my own 2 eyes, I'd call it just about the strangest case of deja vu I've ever had.
Gene, this movie is a line-for-line cut and paste of the original, and it couldn't be more obvious that they were casting the nostalgia bait. This now makes 3 Death Stars in 4 movies, and it's like an anthill that keeps getting rebuilt by the colony because it's all they're programmed to do. If you violate the law of diminishing returns by continuing to give the audience the exact same thing, the effect diminishes with every return. It's the cardinal sin, and I imagine everyone from Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy all the way to J.J. Abrams, Disney's mystery box errand boy sent by a grocer to collect a bill, would be ashamed were they not so busy counting the pile of money.
And this may be controversial to say, but the issue traces all the way back to Return of the Jedi, when then-producer Gary Kurtz left production after George Lucas rewrote the original draft to focus more on action rather than resolution of the primary story. Revenge of the Jedi, as it was originally called, was supposed to be more character-driven like the second one, and Han Solo was supposed to die in the beginning of the second act, but there was a lot of money at stake in the toy market, and instead, they lowered the bar to sell toys, and instead, we got Ewoks taking down the Empire. It's why it wasn't as good as The Empire Strikes Back, and it's why The Force Awakens is a plastic lunchbox with a cartoon mouse on it.
And we're not given any context whatsoever as to why we're right back to where we started in the first movie, with the good guys on the run from an Empire facsimile that seems to have taken over again. How did they go from defeating the Empire to being a resistance? It's the ultimate reset button where you're left wondering why the original characters even bothered if this is how things turned out.
It's not like they didn't have a wealth of good source material to draw from with all those books in the extended universe, but Roger, what's even less clear is the motivations of the characters. Why does Rey care about the Resistance? Why is Finn following her around like a puppy with separation anxiety? Why is Luke Skywalker on vacation? Why are there maps just lying around all over the place? Meanwhile, Daisy Ridley's acting in this movie is like an overdrawn checking account, where every moment she's on screen it feels like she's about to dramatize a ham sandwich.
She's a character written to be so perfect that it completely reduces the threat of the antagonist. She's fixing the Millennium Falcon. She's a perfect shot. She's mastered the Force 5 minutes after learning about it. She's out dueling the wannabe Darth Vader emo villain in a fight. And you know, Gene, somebody once asked Lawrence Kasdan about Han Solo dying in that original version of Return of the Jedi you mentioned, and his response was telling. He said he felt someone had to die very early in the film, because if that happened, it would leave the audience thinking for the rest of the movie that everyone else was vulnerable too. But at no point in this movie do you get a sense that the outcome is ever in doubt.
I'll add to that by pointing out the intention of that movie was to kill Han Solo because they cared about the character. In this movie, they kill him off because they don't. And right after it happens, Roger, I swear to you, the very fact that Leia hugs Rey while Chewie just walks past her after everything they've been through, there isn't enough deodorant in the world to mask the absolute landfill stench of it.
Now, I know Disney made a point of addressing the idea of inclusivity in Star Wars, but take a look at how J.J. Abrams uses blocking shots to move and position the actors in a scene. In both of these interactions between the two main characters, notice how Abrams is setting up a blocking shot that asks Daisy Ridley to deliberately stand on higher ground so that she's towering over John Boyega. The position conveys her dominance over him and is further amplified by the use of high and low angle shots. And for a movie that campaigned on being inclusive, executive producer Kathleen Kennedy apparently meant it when she said the Force is female. Now, you may be asking yourself if that same technique was used in the original trilogy, and the answer is no. When Han and Leia are in the same scene, almost never does the camera waver outside neutral ground despite Harrison Ford's clear height advantage over Carrie Fisher. The framing is tight and held over medium ground, and we never get a visual sense of one character's superiority over the other. But because The Force Awakens is so concerned with the optics of women in power, it creeps into the story like a hillside fog and settles right into your joints.
There's been a lot of discussion about whether or not Rey qualifies as a Mary Sue, a term used to describe an unrealistically perfect, talented, and universally adored character with no relatable struggles. By that definition, Daisy Ridley's character is a Mary Sue. It's inauthentic and boring. But if you point this out to the wrong person, you're likely to be called sexist or misogynist. Here's the thing, though. Paula Smith didn't want to see that either. She was a Trekkie who coined the phrase with a fan fiction parody that satirized the trend of writers self-inserting idealized versions of themselves into their own stories. You'll hear the woke mob tell you it's time for other people to see themselves on screen. Okay, fine, but the goal of story isn't to give us the ideal. It's to give us the reality with a hint of the ideal. And if your only obsession is to see yourself as perfect, chances are it's because you probably aren't.
Anyway, that's it for this week. Next week, we'll be back with a review of Snow White, starring some spoiled Hollywood brat who's about to go on permanent hiatus. Until then, the balcony is closed, and I think I speak for Gene when I say this woke crap really makes me wish for a time when I had to review a movie like Howard the Duck.
Promotional considerations were paid for by the following. The Back to Cool High School Hall Pass. Offering vacation packages for men of a certain age, you'll be booked for a 2-week, all-expenses-paid trip back to high school. With the Back to Cool Hall Pass, now you can relive the time when you actually thought you had a chance. Brought to you by the Human Experience. Biased Box Labeling by the 9010 Moving Company. If divorce is cleaning you out, there's no better way to show your spouse exactly how you feel. With Biased Box Labeling, you may be getting a roommate, but the message will be loud and clear. The Cranky Candle. Ever wonder what bitter moments smell like? With the Cranky Candle, you'll walk into a room full of aromas that'll take you down memory lane. Scents include quiet desperation, performative forgiveness, cold nostalgia, and the faint musk of one-sided effort.